And let's get right to the site. Back out to the Cotton Bowl in Arlington. Welcome in Chip Patterson and big game Dennis Dodd. And Chip, I yelled OH to Beanie Wells, and he yelled back IO. I say to you, Jack Sawyer and the impact that he had on this game was immeasurable.
It cannot be measured. His return to Ohio State, motivated by wanting to redeem anything that he felt had not been accomplished. Jack Sawyer has wanted Buckeyes success so badly. You saw it on his face as Michigan is planting the flag and Jack Sawyer's losing his mind. He is representative of the massive chip on the shoulder of this Ohio State team, the edge the defense plays with. And when he is in pursuit of Quinn Ewers, I think, oh, he's going to get a sack. But nay, Chip Patterson, we are going to do even more than that. We are going to get the go-ahead touchdown in an all-time college football playoff finish because, Dennis, this building was Texas dominant. The vibes were trending in Texas's direction, and they were on the 1 yard line, and Jack Sawyer put this program, that state, and every Ohio State Buckeye on his back, carried them 83 yards the other way. A tremendous finish for this game.
The pride of Pickerington, Ohio,
That's
who decided to come back, eschewed the NFL, came back. His junior year was not great. They were kind of messing with him as a hybrid linebacker rush guy until they made him a defensive end full time. But there's kind of a bookend piece to this. I was standing behind him on November 30th when Ohio State was singing Carmen, Ohio after the Michigan game. And it was the flag planting.
Right.
And he sensed something, and he turned around, and I was right behind him, and he said, blank this, and just ran. And we all saw what happened.
Oh, he put his helmet on. He's got great IQ. If we're going to go into a fight, battle. I need my helmet.
So is this a nice bookend to that he runs it back 83 yards for the clincher? I kind of got him going about that, but he wouldn't quite bite on it because he didn't want to talk about the brawl anymore.
Well, not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. There's more business. And that's what I hear from Ohio State. Yeah. They're talking about being legendary. They're talking about what it takes to go down as an all-time Buckeye. They understand that winning the 9th national championship in program history, the first in 10 years, all of that is on the table thanks to what they did now. I don't think they'll give us the storybook yet, but it is all there.
By the way, talking to longtime observers of the Buckeyes, a couple of the writers, they were flat out saying this was the biggest clutch play defensively in Ohio State history.
Wow.
They can't think of anything bigger. And we're talking about 120 years. So what we saw tonight here, Hakeem, was history.
Yeah, that was historic, that play. Jack Sawyer is now officially a legend if he wasn't already in Ohio State lore. And you look at how hard he played against Michigan. He tried to single-handedly win that game defensively. A huge interception near the goal line. He's had a sack in every game in these playoffs, and he comes up with a huge play. Now, someone who didn't come up with a huge play was Jeremiah Smith. He was held to one catch. And we say this all the time, Chip. If I had told you before the game that Jeremiah Smith would only have one catch for 3 yards, either you would have called me crazy or you would have said, well, I know Ohio State football and they have other stars and they can pick it up. What did you see that Texas was able to take away Jeremiah Smith's deep threat? Because they tried to go to him early on that first drive and they missed.
Right, and it wasn't just one player. The whole defense was slanted in Jeremiah Smith's direction. They were tracking him as he was moving around in pre-snap motion. They were always getting a little bit of extra eyes. I mean, there were times where it wasn't a true triple coverage, but there were 3 defenders all within the proximity of Jeremiah Smith, respecting not just his ability to go make a big catch, but also what he can do after the catch. And at some point, I think Chip Kelly said, okay, if you're going to do that, here's the middle of the field. Here's G. Scott. No, here's Carnell Tate on a slant. Carnell Tate, 9 targets in this game, a career high for him. There are more players there, and I think that was the pivot for the Buckeyes that, okay, if you're going to do that, what did we say? Pass the chalk. And you pass the chalk, and you make some adjustments.
Well, what are we talking about? The best receiving room in the country.
Yep.
Jeremiah Smith, 3 targets, 1 catch. One of those was an incompletion. The other was set up an interception, or was an interception.
Right.
And Chip Kelly and Ryan Day were wise enough not to force the issue. As you said, you've got Emeka Egbuka, you've got Carnell Tate, you've got G. Scott, the tight end. You're deep. It was very much, we talked about it in the press box, very much sideways game on both sides.
Right.
Neither team wanted to take shots. They busted the 75-yard screen. That
but
was a bust.
It was a screen.
That was a bust. And it was
a
screen. It was a bust by Texas. So I thought Ohio State offensively played very smart tonight and didn't force the issue. There have been other games this year, not one catch for 3 yards, but when he was shut down, and they were okay with it. Notre Dame may do the same thing. They were patient tonight.
When you look ahead to the national championship, and I'm going to go ahead and go on record right now, even as an Ohio State fan, I feel like the 9.5-point spread is disrespectful to Notre Dame. It feels disrespectful for the defense they have. 32 takeaways, most in FBS. I get it. Ohio State has the edge, wide receiver. Maybe running back, it's pretty close. But I get it with the wide receiver having the edge there. Defensively, Ohio State, 12 points per game allowed, fewest in FBS. 16 sacks through 3 playoff games. Chip, when you look at how these two teams match up, Marcus Freeman, Ryan Day, Marcus Freeman went to Ohio State. The storylines are abound. You have both teams with an embarrassing loss on their ledger. One to Michigan, one to Northern Illinois. The other one to Oregon wasn't embarrassing, but you know what I'm saying. It's a revenge tour for both of these schools, and here we are clashing in the Natty, two of the biggest brands in sports.
And when we had the failures at the goal line by Notre Dame when they played in 2023 back in South Bend, when we had where's Lou Holtz at now, when we had a Brady Quinn and a jersey that was split half on one side and the other. I mean, the connections between these two programs are incredible. But here's what I'm paying attention to, Hakeem. I'm paying attention to injury updates out of South Bend because the offensive line for Notre Dame, which again is getting healthier, but then getting more banged up all along the way, they're going to have to defend that group that has 16 sacks in the college football playoff. They're going to have to defend that group that brought a ton of pressure on Quinn Ewers and really, a couple wheel routes to Jadon Blue. A lot of the defensive breakdowns for the Buckeyes was not up front. So I think it is a fair line, Hakeem. And I would bring up one more thing. Disrespectful lines. You know what was a disrespectful line? Georgia being favored over TCU. Do you know what was a disrespectful line? Alabama being favored over Notre Dame in 2012. In the national title game, sometimes the lines tell us exactly what's going on with these two teams, and that's all I'll have to say about that for now.
No, I thought the line is right. I thought it's accurate. I thought it would be about 10 when the final came in. You're talking about the offensive line. Ohio State just played a finalist for the Moore Award, the Joe Moore Award, best offensive line in the country. Whatever version of offensive line shows up for Notre Dame isn't going to be as good as this offensive line, and certainly not as talented as an offense. Now, Notre Dame might drag it into the muck, and that's why I've already said I think Ohio State's going to win the national championship. The OG has picked every game in the playoff, all 10 so far accurately, but I am picking Notre Dame right now with the points.
Okay, but not to win.
No, just with the points.
Okay.
Low
scoring game.
Low scoring game.
Special teams touchdown because, of course, they're going to find special teams touchdowns.
As Rudy-esque as Notre Dame is, I think Ohio State's the team of destiny right now.
Feels that way.
One thing also in common, both teams 15 games played. One fewer game than a lot of these playoff teams, so perhaps the rest will help them come Monday, January 20th in Atlanta. Both schools, this is going to be incredible. I'm so excited for this national championship. This is, say what you will about the 12-team playoff, this generated the best two teams standing. We'll argue for the next 10 days about it, but these two teams in the national championship, sign me up every day. Chip Patterson, Dennis Dodd. Chip, you got something. Go for it.
Yes, standing.
Yes.
Because that's what we're going to see. We're going to see attrition. we're going to see that this expanded playoff is going to be about getting through healthy. Dennis and I both enjoy the National Hockey League a lot. The Stanley Cup champion is often about who just survives the grind of the Stanley Cup playoffs. And as we're sitting there and we're watching JTT go leave the game, we're watching, we know Isaiah Bond has been banged up. He can't be a factor in this game. To me, the expanded playoff is showing us that it needs to be a little bit of that injury luck just to be able to get through to be the last team standing.
You know what? They need playoff bonuses, too.
Yeah, they do. No doubt.
Well, someone's going to get more than the other. We know that. If Notre Dame wins it all, they're getting all the money because they don't have a conference to share with. If Ohio State wins it all, they're going to be doing some sharing with all of their conference members. As you take a look at the most wins against top 5 teams in a season, Ohio State winning 4 games against top 5 teams in a season for the first time in school history. Ohio State chasing its 9th national championship, first since 2014. Notre Dame chasing its 12th national championship, first since 1988. Chip Patterson, Dennis Dodd joining us here on HQ. Great work out there, men, as we continue our coverage here on CBS Sports HQ. Oh, here we go. Here we go. We welcome in the 2-time Super Bowl champ Bryant McFadden and former Ohio State running back Beanie Wells. Beanie, oh my goodness.
Man.
All I got to say right now is Jack Sawyer to the rescue.
Oh, amazing performance by him in that defensive line. Look, this wasn't a pretty game by any stretch of imagination. There were so many ebbs and flows of this game. It went in so many different directions, so many momentum shifts, but championship teams find a way to get it done and win. And Ohio State just went out and did that. I couldn't be prouder of these guys. I mean, the coaching staff, getting these guys to buy in. Let's not forget where we were just about a month ago mentally. I think all of Buckeye Nation, the fans, the coaching staff, the players, were just at a standstill in shock about how everything transpired after the Michigan game. This team just reinvented themselves and had an awakening. Masterful performance down the stretch, getting it done when it mattered most. Hats off to Jack Sawyer and this defense.
I want to give Bryant McFadden his flowers right now because before this game, we had the pregame show. His impact player of the game on defense for Ohio State, Captain Jack. 3rd and goal, pass breakup. 4th and goal, strip sack, scoop and score, touchdown natty. You know ball. Beanie knows ball, but you know ball right there on the defensive side. Like, you called that as if you saw into the future and said Jack Sawyer is going to make a play.
At that time, it was a 5-star moment, right? And I needed a 5-star player to show up. And me, Hakeem, we're watching this game together. When you look at where Texas was, where the football was, I said, Jack, it's your time. Because if you look at Beanie, how the game started, JT jumped out and was balling. Then he kind of got hampered a little bit with that ankle injury, slowed him down. But he kind of got things rolling, playing on the opposite side of the line of scrimmage, getting sacks on Quinn Ewers. I think he had 1.5 sacks in the first quarter. But you look at Jack, he was pretty quiet. At that moment, it's a 5-star moment. 5-star players got to show up in those opportunities. And you talked about the 3rd down deflection, was able to create penetration. And then, of course, the 4th down, just pure speed, was able to bend the corner. Not only get a sack, forced fumble, he got a recovery, and he got a touchdown. I mean, that's the ultimate, hat trick, to say the least. And that's who he's been the entire season. And that's why this team has done what they've done, especially on the defensive side, because he is the ultimate leader. He is a guy that an NFL organization will fall in love with because he's a quality player on and off the football field. And you talk about being the ultimate captain. I don't know if there's a better captain in college football than Captain Jack Sawyer.
This is their identity, though, Beanie. This is what is different about Ohio State is their defense. Mm-hmm. They allowed 12 points per game this season, best in FBS. They allow 14 in this game. This is the separation between the championship level teams. And I know Notre Dame led FBS in takeaways, so this is going to be an absolute battle in the national championship. But when you look at Ohio State and the Jim Knowles-led defense, the pressure, Sonny Styles was all over the field, Beanie. I mean, he was the unsung hero of this game. He had 9-some tackles and a sack.
I mean, he was incredible. Just this entire defense of game plan was masterful, just figuring out ways to get guys in position and to step up when it matters most. And I think that's the critical thing. When you go back into that 3rd down situation to where you got Caleb Downs figuring out a way to shoot the gap, forcing the running back to go outside and slowing him up there and getting a tackle for loss. incredible play by this football team. Everybody wanted to know, how would Ohio State respond being in this situation if they got into a dogfight? We knew they could be front runners. When they get out to these early starts, they can kind of bury you early. But how would they be in a situation where you're in a dogfight in the phone booth? Are you going to respond? Today, they proved that they will be able to respond and they can win a championship. And if they continue this play, they'll be hoisted a national championship trophy at the end of the year come next week.
And they won this game, and I'm surprised that I'm even telling you this. Jeremiah Smith had 1 catch. If I had told both of you before this game that Jeremiah Smith would have 1 catch and they still won, you probably said, yeah, the other guys stepped up. I don't know that you would have said it was the defense that carried him and Will Howard's legs. Because I'm sitting here, Jeremiah Smith, 1 catch and they still won? Well, I say you're crazy.
See, that's the thing. That's why this is the most talented team in college football, because it's not, their success is not predicated on 1 player, right? To your point, Jeremiah Smith, 1 reception for 3 yards. Will Howard still threw for almost 300 yards. And he had some ebbs and flows in this ball game. Let's look at the pro prospects, right, offensively, just at the skill position. Judkins, NFL player. Henderson, NFL player. Tate, NFL player. Smith, NFL player. Ibuka, NFL player. Most defenses, at best, may have 3 or 4 NFL guys. You're talking about, I just named, 5 guys that are legit NFL players. And we're talking about anywhere from rounds 1 to 3. That's great talent, and they do things the right way. So, and the scary part about this Ohio State win, Beanie, is that they were sloppy on offense. We're talking about 9 penalties. The majority of those penalties was on offensive plays that hampered drives. And they still find a way to not just cover the spread. They won by 14 points.
It's
14 points.
It's incredible.
Think about that.
I mean, you know how I'm the gatekeeper of the word unbelievable? Because when you say things, people go, oh, that's unbelievable. And you're like, no, I can believe that. I'm sitting here right now. I think that what I just saw, I can believe it, but it's bonkers, as I would say. Beanie, like the fact that they were so undisciplined, 9 penalties, 75 yards, and still find a way, what does that say about them?
I mean, it speaks to the character of this football team, that they're a gritty team. They've been through the ringer already this season. You know, we talk about how they lost to Oregon, how it came down to the wire, how they had some miscues in that football game. And then you go back and you look at the Michigan game and the exact same thing. They were out physical. They had miscues, guys playing out of position, but they found a way to figure out an identity, and that's playing together and finding a way to win when it matters most. I mean, that just speaks to the culture of the football team and the revamping and the awakening that this team has went through this football season. You know, hats off to Ryan Day for getting this team to buy in and not get down. I think we saw in weeks prior to where things weren't going their way, they kind of got down and went in the low, and they would have lost this game if they were the same team before that they were earlier in the season. But now they're completely different. This team is motivated and understands that, you know what? This is a 60-minute football game. You can't allow 1 play to dictate the rest of this football game.
This was their most penalized game of the entire season.
Wow.
9 for 75. And you and I are watching this, and it's about 10 minutes to play in the 4th quarter. They didn't run the ball at all during this drive. It's 4th and 2. You say, Ryan Day, Chip Kelly, run the ball. Will Howard listens to you, 18 yards, he gets tripped up by the turf monster, but then they score right there to make it 21-14. You go, okay, they got this figured out. And then the cherry on top with Jack Sawyer.
Yes.
But that late game execution is the separation of why they are in the Natty.
You know, sometimes as an offensive play caller, they get caught up in the moment. You know what I mean? And most offensive play callers, Beanie, you know this, they're egocentric. You know, if you run the football on 1st down and get 6 yards, you should run the football on 2nd down. It's 2nd and 4, but what do? They throw the football. So when you look at the flow of the game, I'm hollering, run the football, and I also echo, Will Howard can run. He is a runner. He's a capable runner. And that was the great time for Chip Kelly to call that QB design run. Because if it wasn't for the turf monster, he probably would have scored. But these are things you would like to see more, in my opinion, Beanie, Hakeem, from Will Howard. When you look at the read options that they timely run, if you just keep the football every now and then, you're going to get positive yards. You're more than a capable runner. So hats off, because I was yelling for that the entire ball game. Run it. Will Howard, he's a capable runner. Coach, I know you don't hear me, but I'm acting like you're hearing me. That was the great time to do so, because if you look at what Notre Dame does with Riley Leonard, look at how he becomes a +1 in the running game. Look at how it helps their offense. I know I'm a former defender. I don't like playing against quarterbacks who can run the football, because we're only taught to defend 11 guys. We're not taught to defend 12. When you have a +1 at the quarterback position as a runner, he's like 2 players in 1. So for Ohio State moving forward against a quality sound defensive team like Notre Dame, it's okay to get Will involved in the running game so he can provide a thrill.
Beanie, I know you love that, the fact that they went to the running game there. You probably sitting there going, finally.
Yes. It's something that was certainly needed. I thought Chip Kelly was holding it back all season long, because when we first got Will Howard, I thought that was been something that we've seen on a consistent basis, that read option, because when you look at Chip Kelly offenses, we knew he liked to run the quarterback. And we didn't really see it that much this year, but I think he's waited to the right time to really throw that wrinkle in the offense. And I think right now, teams are going to have to respect it. Notre Dame is certainly going to have to respect it and worry about him pulling that ball and getting those 18 yards around the edge on a consistent basis, opposed to, them just zeroing on the running back on those zone read situations. But I love the way that we went to the run game down the stretch. We got behind our pads, the offensive line that said, you know what, mano a mano, we're going to be physical and out-physical you here and get these tough yards and these tough situations when we need to. Incredible performance by this football team.
I would like to say thank you to Ohio State, because at halftime, I gave you this statistic. Ohio State 82-0 in the last 10 seasons when leading by 7 points or more at the half. They're now 83-0, and they're now playing for a natty. Thank you, Buckeyes.
He was nervous, Buckeyes. He was nervous.
Yeah. Our producer, he had the clip. He was ready to roll. It was going to go viral, and it was going to be, look at this sports anchor that jinxed Ohio State getting to the national title. They didn't get there. This guy jinxed them. Not anymore. Beanie Wells, Bryant McFadden, Buckeyes to the natty.
O-H!
I-O! Oh, I lost my voice. I'm so excited. Ohio State to the national championship. They are chasing their 9th and first since 2014. They will meet Notre Dame on January 20th. Notre Dame chasing its 12th national title. We'll set it up next on CBS Sports HQ.